Today, we are talking about Samuel Cooper, who has major breaking news that he wants to drop on Project Next. And we're very thankful that he chose our media network to do this. So, why is he on? Get the word out. Why is he deep diving into Indiana and national politics? What is his big announcement? You are going to hear it here first. Samuel Cooper, thank you for choosing Project Next to drop your breaking news. Can you please introduce yourself and then you can tell us what this news is?
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm new to this. I've never been on a podcast before, and I've never done what I'm about to do. With that being said, I would like to read something that I prepared. So if you'll give me just a moment of your time, we'll get started.
That sounds great. We're so thankful to have you here. Yes.
Yeah, no, thanks. So just a little bit about me. My name is Samuel Cooper, and we'll come back to that, but let me just get right into where I want to go. So I was raised in a conservative Christian home. I still believe in God, and I still hold on to my faith. As I've grown older, the more I've learned, the more I've experienced, for better or worse. Life can get tough. It can throw many curveballs that you didn't see coming or anticipate showing up at your front door. The challenges we face in life shape who we become throughout our lives and help open our minds to different ideals, thoughts, and differing opinions. Recently, it has become more pronounced and clearer than ever that division runs deep. Respectful disagreements have become a powder keg for hatefulness, ugliness, and cruelty. What happened to the days? What happened to the days when we could disagree, but still treat one another with kindness, dignity, and a modicum of respect? I do not wish to invoke his name, to squarely lay the blame at the feet of one person. He, who shall not be named, is partially a symptom of the disease that has crept into all reaches of life, from politics to faith to everyday living. This rot was growing subtly and quietly beneath us for many years, until recently it became louder and louder, making it almost impossible to cut through the noise. I believe now more than ever, it's time to reclaim the days when we could have disagreements, debates, and dialogue with kindness, dignity, and respect. I urge all of you to join this fight for our freedom, for our rights, and our liberty. This is for all of us, from all walks of life, all beliefs of faith or not, for all Hoosiers and Americans. We might feel defeated. We may feel like all hope is lost. But we cannot give up the fight. For all of our futures and the futures of those yet to come depend on us, and we can't afford to fail them. So,
All right. So I love that speech. It's beautiful what you wrote, and I agree with it so much. We've got to stop the hate, fear, and division. We have to stop and call out the news sources, the social media profiting off of our fear and hate. We have to call it out, and we have to work extra hard to not believe them that our neighbors are our enemies and realize the majority of us have more in common than what separates us. I completely agree with you. And because of this, what are you saying? What are you going to do with national politics?
So I'm actually putting my hat in the ring, so to speak. And I am one of, I'm not sure how many people they'll end up being, but I am seeking the Democratic nomination in the 5th District in Indiana as a Democrat.
For Congress?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. That
Please.
is so exciting. So you all, let me explain what this means, because if you're not super into politics, it's confusing. In Indiana, we have 9 districts. So I'm in District 9. My co-founder, Tim Peck, ran for Congress in District 9. He's planning on running again. And then we had Jackson Franklin on our show a couple weeks ago. He is running for the district you're running in. So there's 9 districts, and we will elect 9 people to go to Washington, D.C. and be one of our House of Representatives. Do you know how many? There's like 400 or something total. There's a lot of maybe it's 500 something.
I believe it's around 420 something.
I can look that up later, but yeah, so there's hundreds of Congress people in Washington, D.C. 9 of those are Indiana, and it's based on population. We have 2 senators. Every state has 2 senators, regardless of population. And then House of Representatives are elected based on population. And so we have 9 of them. And you are officially running for Congress District 5, which is northern Indianapolis area.
No.
Like, where is that?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So the best way to describe that is, if you're familiar with Indiana, Indianapolis is here. You go just a little north and you'll find Hamilton County. But if you look at it like from a map, you've got Fishers, you've got Carmel, you've got Westfield, Noblesville. And then if you go north, you're up in Kokomo, swing a little bit to the northeast, and you'll be in Marion City, not Marion County. And then if you come down, you'll hit Muncie, and then go down a little bit further, more like southwest, you'll run into Anderson. And then if you swing back towards Noblesville, and then in between there, there's actually a lot of small cities that I actually intend to go to. We've got Elwood, Indiana. We've got Alexandria. There's also Tipton up near Kokomo. And, as we're talking about earlier, Muncie, you've got Yorktown. There's a lot of little places in there, and all those folks matter.
This is great. So a lot of you might not totally understand how voting and politics work. When I was just like a busy teacher and mom, I really didn't understand the word primary. So I'm going to explain that for those of you that might be just now getting involved in local politics because of what's happening in our country right now. So let me just explain it to you. So we don't automatically just pick one Democratic candidate to go on the November ballot. You get to go, Democrats and Republicans get to go to a primary in May, and they get to say so it's going to be in May next year. So it's about a year away. In about a year, you'll get to go to your voting polling place, and they'll ask Republican or Democrat. And so whichever one you feel more towards, you say, I'll take a Democrat ticket, or I'll take a Republican ticket. So if they live in District 5, which is all the places you just said, you'll go up to your polling place in May and say, I would like a Democratic ticket. And then you're going to look at all the different candidates running to be the main person on the November ballot in 2026. So you'll have, we know Sam is running, and we know Jackson Franklin, and then there's a couple other people. And if they want to come on the show, they are welcome to. And you guys get to you can watch Project Next if this is your district, and you can meet the candidates, and you can see who you identify with the best, and then you can go and vote for that person. And you can also inform your family and friends and neighbors, because most people have no idea what's going on in local elections. They just know like president. And so that's one of the reasons we started Project Next. And we are going to have a Republican on tomorrow, you all. I'm having a Republican cop that's running for sheriff in Floyd County on. So we will have Republicans on as well. Like you said, we need to unite and stop this division, that they're profiting off of our fears. The easiest way to get somebody on your side is to scare them, and that is
Yeah.
not moral. And in my opinion, that is not moral. People that do that, I think it's wrong.
Can I say something?
Sure.
So, interestingly enough, there's two emotions that are the most driving. You mentioned fear, but the counter to that is actually hope. So there's that piece.
I love that. Thanks for saying that. Yeah. And I have so much hope in the fact that so many people want to run for Congress. Tim Peck
Yeah,
already has people saying that they will primary him, and Tim welcomes it. Let the people, let the voters pick the best choice. We don't need the people in charge, the Indiana Central Committee or the National Committee telling us who we should elect. In my
right.
opinion, the voters should get to pick
Yeah,
who they think is the best.
I agree. I mean, there's a reason why I know this is a bit more national, but we the people, by the people, for the people. So I completely agree. Let the people decide who they believe either A, best represents their ideals, who they believe, a lot of voters, not all of them, but a good portion of voters, and I think this is and I might get in a little hot water saying this, a lot of folks, and I've been guilty of this at some point in my life too, are single issue voters. And which is crazy, and it's okay. Like, hey, welcome to America, and even here in Indiana, where we can disagree, we can have our disagreements. That's fine. It just kind of goes back to, let's bring down the temperature. Let's treat each other like we're still people. And I think the crazy thing is that, I have friends who are all across the political spectrum, and there are things, and that's okay. Because I believe that if everyone thought the exact same thing, like if everyone loved the same color, if everyone thought pizza was amazing, and if everyone thought Taylor Swift was the best artist, it would get a little bit boring after a while if we all thought the exact same thing.
Yes, I love that. You're so right. My husband and I butt heads on issues, and I'm glad. I don't want somebody just blindly listening to everything I say and not pushing back because sometimes I'm wrong. So the best collaborators have different viewpoints and are willing to listen to each other and compromise and try to make the main goal benefiting we the people, the
Yeah.
community, the neighborhoods. And we've really lost that in national politics and in local politics lately. It seems like money and special interest groups and lobbyists have really been able to get into our government because most of us don't know what's going on because it's so confusing and the people in charge don't want us to know what's going on. So there seems to be a giant disconnect in our laws and what the majority of the people want. And that's
Yeah.
our hope that through Project Next and having great people on like you that want to step up and run, we can have you on and we can discuss and we can help inform people for free. There's no paywall to watch Project Next so that we can work together to start electing people that aren't going to blindly listen to people profiting off of bad laws, and we can actually pass things that would benefit us, which we greatly need here in Indiana.
Yeah. I mean, I agree completely. There's that old saying that knowledge is power. And I know that might sound dated, but it is genuinely true. As I've been going along through this whole process, and I'm running policy positions, which, by the way, folks, they're not all done. You'll see a good work in progress written on there. But I've got my main 3. There's 9 total. I'm probably going to add some more. But the crazy thing is, like, there were some things that I knew, and there were some things that I had like a pretty good idea on. But like, I'm all about statistics and facts, and what is true. Now, obviously, there's opinion pieces, and well, those are opinions, and everyone's entitled to have one. But I think one of the things, so, as someone who grew up and a home with, I had a single mother. Um, I am not ashamed or afraid to talk about different things like, I think it's called SNAP benefits now. But when I was younger, I'm 38 by the way. But when I was younger, I can remember when you got food stamps and they were in like a physical booklet. And I can remember when you had like it looked like not Monopoly money, but it looked kind of like, it was like fake money. And it was paper, but like you had the dollar bill, you had the 5, you had the 10. There was probably higher than that, but my mom never gave my sister and I a one higher than that. But I can remember going to, I grew up in Noblesville, Indiana, and there is a park that's still there. It's called Seminary Park. And there used to be a village pantry that's set next to it. And there was flavored water. I remember it was in glass, but I can't remember. I think it was like some kind of Canadian flavored water. And it was cherry. But my sister and I, we would go there and we would get one like once a week. And it just tasted, it was really good. And I don't even know if it exists anymore, but just
that's a beautiful story. And it humanizes a real thing we need from the government. I am really glad that your mom was able to get that and that you didn't go hungry as a child. I support feeding children that would be hungry otherwise, and I support your mom, how hard she had to work to be a single mom. That I've been a single mom before. It's hard and it's scary. And it's one of the poorest times in my life.
Yeah.
And sometimes the people that want us to be divided act like people are lazy. They're not putting their bootstraps on. They're not working enough jobs. And in Indiana, the minimum wage is something like $7.25 an hour. There's just no way a single mom can work one full-time job and afford an apartment or a small rental house and food and pay bills. It's just not feasible in Indiana. And so I'm glad we have programs like that. And I hope that we raise our minimum wage, and I hope that we can allow good working, hardworking Hoosiers and Americans to work one full-time job and be able to support their child,
No, I completely agree. And that's a good segue. So 2 pieces. One is, so there is definitely income issues as far as wages over the years. So for example, in the 1970s, you can fact check me, but the average home was 1,200 square feet. And the average home cost about $17,000 in 1970.
That is a big change.
And the hourly rate, I believe, was like $1.75. So in the 70s, you're earning $1.75. The average square foot of a home is 1,200, and it's costing $17,000. Well, let's fast forward to today. I did some math. And basically for a person to afford a 1,200 square foot home, on average, here in Indiana, you've got to make about $26 to $28 an hour. And, you brought up a very good point about wages and the minimum wage. The thing is, Indiana has that set. But a lot of folks, not all, I just heard about, someone who works at a GameStop that makes like $10.50 an hour, and it's a college student, which that's still low. That's still low. You're going to college, you should get paid more. But where it becomes tricky is, and I think this is another thing that we kind of got to figure out how we get this sorted out and how we rectify this and how we get it together. So it is a lot easier for your chain stores. It's a lot easier for the big box stores, and larger corporations. They can afford to pay higher wages, but the struggle and where you have to figure out, well, there's actually both sides that need some fixing. There's a lot of things that need fixed.
There's a lot of things that need fixed, and we need good people that are gonna be smart and look into it and actually create change instead of just fighting.
Right, but the problem is most people are employed through small business. I'm sure you've heard this. I've heard it all my life. Small business is the backbone of America. So if that is true, and if that is the fact, well, let's look at that. We know that it's harder for a small business to afford to pay higher wages. So we need to implement a program that will help small businesses to increase wages. And on the other side, with corporations and CEOs, I have a brother. He lives in Florida. He is 16 years older than me, so he's wiser. That's safe to say. We actually are both Democrats, and that lighting just got. There we go.
Yeah, there we
go. We don't always agree on things, but him and I were talking, and he was telling me, how much. Actually, let me just move this whole thing around. Sorry, everyone.
Oh, you're totally fine. We get a view of your beautiful backyard.
But he was telling me. Oh, is that any better?
It's fine. I can see you.
He was telling me how much the CEO. So my brother is a registered dietitian. He lives in Lakeland, Florida, and he works over a couple different hospitals as the registered dietitian. But he was telling me the amount of money that the CEO was making. And, I don't know her, but I hear she's a very kind lady. She's very nice. But at the end of the day, we can't just politely ask. And, kudos to people who've made it, further in life. People who've, either worked hard or a combination of different reasons and factors. But here's the thing. We can't just politely ask people to take a 10% pay cut.
Yeah, maybe the people at the top don't need to be making so much.
Yeah,
and we can't just politely ask. Maybe we should have some policies.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Yes.
And I think the way to go about it is you need to do something either on the front end or the back end with CEOs. So incentivize those folks to take less of their annual salary. And then in that, you can take, the 10% and you can lift people up, lift them out of poverty, for instance. Lift your lower totem pole workers, lift their wages up, incentivize that, or you go on the back end of it and you look at taxation.
Right. I really agree with you. So when I was a full-time teacher, I didn't really fully completely understand the problem. But now that I'm dedicating a lot of my time to trying to improve Indiana and trying to improve the country, I see the issue. The people that get in power change the rules to keep themselves wealthy.
Yeah.
And they some of them become bullies. Some of them really are good at loopholes when laws get passed, and they make policies that benefit those people at the top. And then we keep hurting people that aren't paying attention, that aren't the ones making the rules. And it's gotten to a point now where it's so divided. The majority of us are realize we're looking around and saying this isn't fair. And the people at the top are so unbelievably wealthy, they've lost touch with reality. And now we're going to have to work together. We're going to have people like you on these type of shows, organizing, working together. We're going to help people get out and vote and meet the candidates. And we've got to elect people that understand this problem and are brave enough to fix it. And that's where it gets hard, because we think, as I'm a Democrat, I'm like blindly assuming that the Democrats in power want to change that. But really, a lot of these Democrats in power are very wealthy and they are benefiting from these policies. So they don't really want to change them. And that's why I like primaries. We got to get people in on both sides, Republican and Democrat. We know Republicans have gotten pretty extreme right now. We need great Republicans running in primaries, and we need to elect them so that collectively both sides have better people in power that actually give a crap about regular hardworking people and people struggling.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. In fact, I heard a thing from a candidate who's running in Iowa. I was just watching one of his ads, and I think he said it best. He talks about how the working class built the damn table that they're sitting at. So don't you think it's time that we get to take a seat at the table? So I think that his name is escaping me. I know he's running against Joni Ernst, and that has nothing to do here with Indiana, but shout out to him. Your campaign ad is great.
Yeah, I'm sure you're looking at those right now. That makes sense. Let's talk a little bit about you and why you decided to run. We spoke on the phone for about 45 minutes,
Yeah.
and I found out some really important things about you as a person, and it made me understand why you are doing this. Because first of all, it is really hard to run for Congress, you all. It's a big area. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of pressure, and you don't get paid for it. You know,
No.
you're not getting paid. You're just relying on campaign donations. And
So
yeah, so it's hard. So I want to know why you want to do this.
okay, well, I just wanted to mention, because some people actually don't know this, if you are not an incumbent, you can go and you can check FEC's website. So like Victoria Spartz obviously is an incumbent, so she wouldn't be able to do this. But you actually—
And that's who you're running against. That's the Republican in power right now in your congressional seat, correct?
She is, but first I would have to win the primary and have the honor of running against her. So, but we're not there yet.
Okay.
But we're all working to get there. It's going to be, to say it the least, it is going to be a roller coaster. And, you know, for better or worse, and come whatever may, and however the chips fall, I think that every candidate that ends up running, they're going to learn a lot. There's going to be, in fact, I spoke with a previous nominee, and she told me she gave me some really good advice.
That's nice. I like that.
And she said, you know, you are going to experience some of the most awesome, like, euphoric moments, but you're also going to experience some of the biggest heartbreaks that you didn't see coming.
Right.
And she mentioned she had a neighbor, and I'm trying to remember her correctly. So Christina Hale, if I get this wrong, please correct the record. But I think she mentioned one of the heartbreaking pieces was, you know, having a neighbor who, when they're not feeling well, you leave food on their front porch, or you check up on them and you make sure they're doing all right. And then as you swing into a general election, they're putting up a sign for your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see how that would be really heartbreaking. It's like, hey, you know, not that you have to vote for me. I'm trying to earn your vote in her situation. But like, we've been knowing each other for a long time. And you know, I can see how that would be a heartbreaking. And
that's the division that we're talking about. People's news sources have made the other side sound like evil villains, but really the villains are the people at the top profiting off of our hate and division because they don't want us working together so that we can elect better people. So we always have to remember when it's heartbreaking, because I've had those experiences. I ran for state house, I ran for county council, where my neighbors that appreciate me helping are not voting for me. We have to realize they're getting news that's false propaganda, fear-led propaganda that makes us seem like, even though we seem like nice people, the label is bad. And that's why I'm tired of labels, honestly. I just want to know more about the names on the ballot and not the R and the D.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And more to that point, not to bring up past elections, and then we'll come right back to why I'm running. I remember the 2016 election, and no, I'm not trying to relitigate it, and I'm not trying to debate about it. But here's what I know and what I believe. I remember seeing an exit poll, and people were talking about where they got their news. And when I saw the exit poll, and most people were getting their news from Facebook, I knew at that moment, I was like, it's Facebook. This isn't looking great. And well, we know how that all ended.
Yeah. And the person that invented Facebook was at the recent inauguration in like the front row or something. And that's a billionaire. And also, I rely on Facebook to get this show out. Those are the highest views we get of the show is on Facebook. So I just acknowledge both things. I'm glad we have it. I'm glad we have Facebook groups. I wish they did better to tweak their algorithm so that they didn't promote hate, fear, violence, not violence, but hate, fear, and division. I wish that they did a better job because it's very easy for them to tweak that algorithm. They could be promoting unity, and it's okay if we don't always agree. I want to tell you a story. When I was running for county council, this is 2.5 years ago, I was scrolling through Facebook and there was a Republican ad, and I read it for like 3 seconds and I was like, ooh. And then I kept going. And for weeks after that, I was fed Republican propaganda on my Facebook just because I paused and looked at that sponsored Republican candidate ad. So instead of getting mad at people that believe things that aren't true, you got to realize these algorithms are very, very smart. They know how to manipulate our brains. They know how to get us divided. And it can only take a 3-second scan of something to cause your algorithm to change. So remember that when your feelings are hurt, by somebody believing something fake, which I know you have experienced, remember that it's not always their fault. I'm not going to be mad at the person tricked. I'm going to be mad at the person who tricked them.
That's fair. That's valid.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
It's hard. Yeah. And so why are you running? Tell us a little bit about yourself. I want you to tell things that you told me on that phone call, because it was really beautiful.
No, that's fine. So just a bit about me, that just so you know me a little bit better. I was born August 25th, 1986. And I was born in a little city most people have never heard of. It's called Pennington Gap, Virginia. And just for reference, it's on the western piece of Virginia, where it sits up next to like Kentucky and Tennessee. Hopefully they got their cell phone signal a bit better over there. Last time I was there, which was a long time ago, it's not the greatest, but maybe they've got it better. But it may be a little hard because it's all hilly and mountains and stuff.
We could have made internet public good and everybody could have it for free, but we do not. And so there's another way to have the big gap of information. Not everybody in my town has internet. Yeah.
And so I was born there. The fun fact about me is, so I was born at 6 months and not 9.
Oh, wow.
I weighed 2 pounds and 2 ounces. And I don't know if the correct word is lifelined or life-flighted. Either way, my little self was put in a helicopter and I was taken to the University of Knoxville in Tennessee. The reason was because the hospital is now called Lee County Memorial. I think it was called Pennington Gap Hospital when I was born, but that's besides the point. But I was taken there because the hospital I was born at did not have they weren't equipped for neonatal intensive care. Wow. So I was flown to the University of Knoxville, and I was staying in their NICU. I actually was there for longer than I thought. I was there for about 6 months.
Wow.
A bit of time. I actually had lost weight while I was there, and I don't remember those exact numbers. But I know throughout the time of me being there, there were moments where the medical staff, the doctors, the nurses, the experts here, not that they're the end all be all, but they're pretty knowledgeable.
Right.
And I think we need to trust those people again. But
that's another issue. Yes.
There was a moment, an evening, a day where they were very confident that the outlook was looking bad and that I wasn't going to make it. So they called up my mom and my family and said, hey, it's not looking good. And we're not sure how it's going to pan out, but you probably should come in and say, your goodbyes.
Aw.
So my mom and my siblings and a lot of my family came in and they all told me goodbye. Well, happening was the next day, my mom got a call from the doctor saying, hey, he's pulled through the night and he's still fighting, he's still kicking, and he's not giving up.
Aw.
And so I got through that.
A fighter from the beginning, thankfully.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I went home and I was on a heart monitor for quite a while, a few months at least. And my mom still tells me stories when we talk about it, how, it would go off and it would wake her up and she would be all frantic. And then at some point she started putting me in her bed, and maybe she shouldn't have done that, but I get it.
I get it.
I get it.
I have preemies and I didn't do it, but I get it.
And so I'm thankful. And that is a good segue, because the reality, and this is what I truly believe, with the way things are today, if I had been born yesterday, with the way healthcare is, with the way all of it is, I don't know what that outcome would have looked like.
I mean, they would have fought to save your life. And I would say we've advanced in preemie care. I've taught fifth graders that were born that were 1 pound, but I just wonder about the bill. I can't fathom how much it would cost.
Yeah. Thank God my mother had great insurance. And, things were a lot different in the 80s, for better or worse, a bit of each. But thankfully she had insurance, because if she didn't, that bill would have been like all the way over to like Saturn. It would have been out literally all the way out there.
Well, if you look at GoFundMe places, it's mostly filled with people asking for help on medical bills. So that is a big concern. Tim Peck, he is a emergency room doctor, and he also he's started companies. He started telehealth companies, and he knows a lot about this. He even lived in a nursing home for 3 months to help with telehealth. Is pretty amazing.
Oh,
and the first time he did telehealth and tried it out, he ended up saving somebody's life that if they wouldn't have had the telehealth, he would have died of a heart attack in the nursing home. And anyway, he explains what needs to be done to fix our healthcare system. And it's in one of the first Dr. Tim episodes for anybody that wants to go back. It's the first one that we filmed in Ellen's house. And he just explained that if we changed our systems, if we changed the way we rewarded insurance, doctors, hospitals, instead of getting people in as quickly as possible and giving them a bunch of tests they don't need and charging them a bunch of money, if we rewarded them for better quality care, that we could quickly improve our healthcare system. And when he explained that on the show, I was like, I feel so much better. I thought this was going to be an issue that was too complicated to solve. It's like, no, but we got to elect people smart enough and willing to work together to compromise to get this type of policies passed. And we need people willing to do the hard work, not just people that want to get in so that can benefit them and their families and they can profit off of their power. We need people that actually want to fix healthcare.
No, that's a good segue. So the whole reason, I wouldn't say the whole reason. So there's 3 big pieces as to why I'm running.
Okay.
But why did I initially decide, okay, I'm in this
to do this crazy thing?
Right.
And it is pretty intense. It's and huge. What are you doing? Yeah.
It's only going to get probably.
It's going to get crazy.
Not crazy. Sam, that kind of crazy.
You're going to be so busy and you're going to be given so much advice, some of it good, some of it bad. And you have to decide whether to take it or not and whether to go to an event or not, because you cannot be everywhere at once. So you've decided to do this intense journey. Yes.
Yeah, and so healthcare is really important to me. It is really something I'm very passionate about. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a surgeon. I don't work for. Well, actually, I have worked for an insurance company, which gives me some insight on that
That
side.
is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, no offense to Elevance Health, but hey, it's Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield, but now it's Elevance Health. And so the whole reason that I started thinking years ago about running was I had to get a set of labs done. And I'm all for, the phlebotomist. They should get paid for sure. The people, the techs in the labs that are running the tests, that are putting the samples of blood through, those people should get paid. All those people should get paid. We can all agree on that. But when I got the bill in the mail, and I was working at a Walgreens, actually, on the east side of Indianapolis as a shift lead, making maybe $14 an hour, I opened this damn bill, and it's $1,000. And I'm like,
And this is just for lab work? Just for some blood tests?
Yeah. I'm like, you guys literally took 5 or 6 vials of blood, which isn't a whole lot of blood. And I'm like, this is over $1,000.
And it's not like the people that did the work are getting the money. The money's, and it's not exactly, Tim's helped me with this. It's not exactly just CEOs making a bunch of money. There's all this red tape. There's all this paperwork that could be eliminated, that could be lessened, that drives up the cost as well. So there's just a bunch of junk, and people at the top of companies are profiting too much. It's kind of complex why that's $1,000, but it shouldn't be. It should not be that much. It's not that much in other countries when they get blood work done, so it can be fixed here, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And more to the point, what I believe is just like, and hey, I used to like a conspiracy theory every now and then, but we elected someone, and I'm not saying that person's name. And so my interest in conspiracy theories has kind of gone down the drain.
I think years ago, conspiracy theories were kind of fun.
Yeah.
And now they've been weaponized, and now people are legit hurting other people because of fake conspiracies. So I get what you're saying. And I think it's very honest. It's changed because of social media, because of weaponization, because of propaganda. Conspiracy theories are very scary now.
Right. But here's what I truly believe. If you go, back to the early 1900s and look at Indiana, we had a very stable public transit system. There were railroads everywhere.
Wow.
And I can remember them taking up railroads in Noblesville when I was a kid. And here's what I believe happened. And others may agree with me and they may not. And wherever that ambulance is headed, I hope that person is okay.
I hope they're okay.
So God be with them. But the thing that happened is the oil companies and the car companies of the auto industry, they got together and they said, well, how are we going to profit when there's all these public transit places?
Yeah.
So, what did they do? They got together and they figured out how to slowly but surely dismantle public transit. And now here we all are dependent on cars and roads and gas.
You're very right about that. Yeah, you're very right. And in my town in Palmyra, I see people walking to Dollar General, and I'm like, I'm so glad we have a Dollar General food mart now, so they can get some healthier food here because they have to walk. There's no public transit. I don't know whether you can even get like an Uber out here. We're so
probably not.
And I've tried before, like a couple of years ago, and I couldn't. I don't know if you can now. You're so right. So we used to. Yeah, that's interesting. And there has been a big push on everybody should have a car, and not everybody can afford a car.
Right. But I really wanted to segue that into here's what I believe happened with insurance.
Okay.
So I won't get too out in the weeds about it. I won't start talking about Nixon and HMOs, HMO. I don't ever remember the name. Sorry, not polished.
You're fine.
But here's what I believe happened. I believe at some point, around probably the 90s, for sure, by then, you had health insurance companies who were getting together with hospitals, medical doctors' offices, and all different kinds of medical facilities. And they sat down, and I genuinely believe that they got together and said, well, how can we increase this by a little bit of that so that the health insurance company is actually profiting off of people? And, when you talk about, for the record, where do I stand on healthcare? So in my view, if you're currently working and you've got good health insurance and you're happy with it and you want to keep it, by all means, keep it. But what I would like to do, not just for Hoosiers here, but for Americans all across the world, is I completely support a single payer healthcare system. And I know when you say that, people get a little antsy. Maybe they have some hairs that, start to stick up on their neck, and they, some of them freak out a little. But change can be scary. And I get that. But here's the thing. With a single payer healthcare system, and why I completely, and this is on a medical side. So we're not talking dental, we're not talking vision, we're talking straight up medical health. The reason I'm so passionate about that is because, the quality of care versus the cost, it doesn't make sense. And so the federal government can only regulate so much. And so with a single payer healthcare system, in my plan and what I'm presenting and proposing, it is quite simple. If you are a family of 4, so 2 adults, 2 children, if you make less than $80,000 a year, you're paying absolutely nothing into the single payer healthcare. But if you make more than $80,000 and you're 2 adults and you've got 2 kids and you're a family unit, you're paying 10% of your income. And I know that sounds maybe like crazy to some people, but the reality is, if you look at Canada and you look at England and you look at other countries, so I'm going to go further with it. We're not stopping here, but we're talking, people do contribute. If you're working, you're contributing towards that. But we're not just stopping there. So we're going to include prescriptions. So no more out of pocket, no more prescription cost. That's all coming with your medical. And then how else? So then we look at it and we're like, okay, so what if you're between the ages of 0 and 18? What if you're 65 and older? Or what if you're not employed? How do we help you?
Yeah, I think it's a big mistake making employment and healthcare have to be connected.
Yeah.
Because what happens when your employer fires you?
Yeah, or you lose your job, or you get ill, or you get diagnosed with something, and there's so many things that can happen.
So many. So you're just like scared something could happen to you.
Yeah,
so
it's like
your healthcare. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm all for decoupling that, but then how do we cover the other people that I just mentioned? Well, it's quite simple. If you are a multimillionaire or billionaire, or you're in the top 1%, so instead of paying, they're still going to pay 10%, but they're getting an additional 1% on top of that, because that other 1%, I've looked at some of the numbers, but that other 1% is going to cover those people. And the other thing that is tricky about how you tax the top 1% is, so fun fact, the estimated combined wealth of the top 1% is $49 trillion. 49 trillion. And so I was looking at an article the other day, and it talked about what they were forecasting as healthcare costs are going up. And they were forecasting $4.9 trillion more going out. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, 4.9 trillion, that's 1% of the 49 trillion of the combined net worth of the top 1%. So it's like, hey, at the very least, when we figure out, and the way you figure out that, so you're not going to you can't ask nicely,
You're going to have to change the policy and make it a law and enforce it.
Right. Just like, I don't want this to happen in the United States. But if you go back to like France, you had, Marie Antoinette let them eat cake, and you had King Louis I'm not sure the number, 14, something like that. Unfortunately, they lost their heads in the process of the French Revolution. I don't want violence.
Me neither. That's why I'm doing this. I do not. There can be a better way. But France has fought for their freedoms. They get tons of vacation every year. They get better pay. That country pays attention to French politics, and they elect people that will put their interests first. And we have lost that in America. You're telling me about these crazy numbers, how much money the top 1% have. Think about how much power comes with that, you all.
Oh,
it is so they've got lobbyists, lawmakers, politicians in their pockets. They have so much power to keep all of their greedy hands on that money. They don't want anybody getting it. And we cannot keep rewarding these billionaires. People do not need $1 billion. You don't need that much money. And people are working for them, making not nearly enough to, stay in their rental house or apartment.
Right.
While they keep profiting off of their work. And it's not fair. And it's going to be very hard to fix. But that's why primaries and people like you and is so important. We need to get the word out about who actually supports us. You're not going to come into power and switch and all of a sudden be for the top people. Right. You know what it was like. Oh, I'm losing internet.
Oh.
Hang on. Let me fix it.
Can you see me?
There we go. Sorry, I'm having a storm here. So that might be
it's raining a little over here.
But anyway, you're not going to forget what it was like to use those food stamps when you were little.
Yeah.
And I think people that grew up hungry, I've had a lot of people trying to control me, and that really has made me be brave and speak out. I'm pretty lucky that I didn't have very many meals where, I got fed. I was housed, but just the amount of control, that's what I had in my past. We need brave people like this, brave, moral, good people. And think about it, you all. The Democratic Party is at a very low favorability. And I see why. Now that I'm trying to influence Indiana politics, I see why we're unfavorable. The people in power at the state level don't really know what it's like to use food stamps when they're little, Sam. They're not getting it. They don't really understand that our women don't have health care, or that our public education is being defunded because they're sending their kids to the wealthy charter schools up in India and stuff. Their kids are grown, or private schools. They don't really get what it's like for my county in Harrison County that's rural. We don't have charter and public schools. We have to get better people in power as Democrats. We have to get better people in power as Republicans before we can get them to make policies that actually help us. Right now, we're just stopping some of the worst. We actually need to elect people that actually make changes and vote policy that help us. And I do feel like you would be one of those people. And I'm really thankful that you're running. I do have a little bit of advice for you you said, oh, I'm not so polished yet on my messaging. I think you're doing a really good job. I keep doing what you're doing. Make sure that you be you.
Yeah.
Be you. Because what we're so sick of is the politicians that get up and tell us what they think we want to hear. And we can sense they're not being authentic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're so tired of it. So don't lose who you are and why you ran. Okay. So we have a couple questions. I wanted to know about you're willing to talk about your sexual orientation. I was wondering if you would talk about that, because I think that's really brave of you.
Yeah. So, look, I wouldn't try and hide it if I could. But the fact is, as soon as I start talking, you're not hiding that shit. You're not hiding that stuff. So I am, and my thing went on battery saving mode. Can you still see me and everything?
I can still see you.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. So, the way I look at it is, so I know that I've talked about friends, or I've talked to friends about it. I've talked about it. And I said, is that going to hurt my chances at hopefully winning winning the primary first? Do I think that is going to be a ding or a negative? I actually think that it's going to be a bit of both. I think it's going to be a negative for some people and a positive, or like they don't mind either way.
So are you a gay man? I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
We're saying everything correctly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I am gay. And with that, let's just say that 99 pieces or 99 parts equals me or equals you or anyone watching. So one piece or part of me is that I happen to be gay. So there are 99 other parts of me that,
and that's just one of them.
Give me the time, you'll see all those other pieces and all those other parts. And I think the other will matter less. But for some people, that may be a deal breaker. And if that's a deal breaker for them, it may sound ironically odd, but I can understand that. I may not agree with those folks, but I can understand why that would.
I think that's really beautiful of you to say. I am not on the Pride community, but I love them so much because it's so important that every human gets to be who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And you shouldn't have to hide who you are. It doesn't mean you need to be shouting it from the rooftops. You can if you want to, but you should get to love who you want. You should get to be who you want. You should get to wear what you want, say what you want, as long as you're not harming other people.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of fake things out there about the Pride community. There's a lot of conspiracy theories. There's a lot of fake hate and division. And it's so sad to me because these people, in my opinion, they just want to be who they are. And that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it makes me like you more that you're in a group that has hate, fake hate, has real hate, real violence. People are violent to people for being different. And you're willing to run for Congress and openly say you're a gay man. I think that's wonderful.
I just want to add one thing to that. So
sure.
The thing I want to add is this, throughout my life, but more so like elementary school, middle school, and going into high school, definitely. Everyone, it's tough being anybody now. But then I was bullied and I was made fun of. And people are like, would you change it? And I'm like, actually, one, I forgive those people.
That's so sweet of you.
The reality is we were all kids. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying you should bully people. But in all trueness and in all sincerity, a part of me would not be who I am today if it wasn't for those people. So I actually thank them in some weird, twisted way. I thank them.
Something that comes out to me that makes you stand out from a lot of the other candidates, because I'm in the political world, I'm meeting a lot of them. Something that I really love about you is your empathy. And this is probably partially because you are a gay man and because you were bullied and you could have gone to a hateful place. You could have gone to a place where you're spewing hate towards them, but you went to a compassionate place. You just said you understand if someone doesn't want to vote for you because of that reason, which I think is ridiculous. I think that's really beautiful. I think that message is going to reach many people in Indiana. Right now, our extremist government at the state level is attacking people in the Pride community. And they're really saying that there's only one true way to have a family or to live, and we're hurting in Indiana. We're hurting because most people's lives are not that picture perfect
Cookie
image of a
cutter.
family, cookie cutter
Yeah.
family. And I think that just who you are is really going to resonate with people. It's something that I love a lot about you is your empathy for those of you that think you're having empathy for people that think mean, unfair, cruel lies about you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
In today's time, most people just slam people on the internet for the tiniest difference. And here you are openly caring about people that might hate you for something you can't control. It's just who you are as a person. So keep doing that, please. I think that's rare in a politics in Congress, and it's very needed. It's very, it's going to be very wanted, that message.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so.
I'm proud of you. So
Thank you.
we're just gonna do a couple more minutes on the show here, but you can come back on again. What would be the biggest thing you'd like to talk about next, and then we'll end the show?
So, one thing that I actually want to talk about, because I think this is important, um, you know, two things: balanced budget. A lot of folks, I get it. There's a lot of things we want to do, and there's a lot of things I am very passionate about, and I'm very like, let's do all of it, But at the same time, I don't use a checkbook anymore, but some people probably still do. And that's okay. You can still use your checkbook and write checks if you want. But with a balanced budget, the money going in at a federal level, going out at the very least, it has to equal, because we can't keep going into debt, because who are we passing that debt on to? We're passing that on to your kids' kids, my niece and nephews, generations to come. So the way I view that, or myself, is I'm leaning fiscally conservative and socially leaning fairly liberal.
Yeah.
And going another step in a different direction. So I know that one thing, there's things going on around the world. We've got wars going on in multiple different places. We've got Ukraine, we've got the stuff with Israel, and who knows what else is down the pipeline. Hopefully we can get those things solved and figured out and get it to stop. But on the topic of war, I know a lot of people, and I myself, and I'm very much against war. But there's two reasons that I believe is acceptable. One is if you're invaded, if your country is invaded by another, you have every right to defend yourself. Now, we could get out in the weeds about that, but the premise and theory, you have every right to defend yourself. The other thing that I think is actually very important, and it's not a, my thing. It shouldn't be a me thing. It shouldn't be a American thing. It should be like, we're all citizens of the planet. But if there is ever a country where their leader is killing thousands of their own people in masses, that's not okay. And everyone around the world should be standing up and saying, that's not okay. And I want to kind of dovetail back and backtrack a bit about balanced budgets. So I'm going to be very sincere. And I know that the names I'm about to mention, some people may not love it, and that's okay. Some people may think, oh, that's a dirty word. But there's two people that I can still say, for better or worse, and they're not perfect people, but, balanced budget. When was the last time on a federal level we had a balanced budget? Do you know?
I know.
So it was actually during the Clinton administration. So in 97, 98, 99, and 2000, we actually had a surplus of revenue. So we were paying down our deficits. We were getting ourselves out of debt. And we were making headway. And so, sure, were there some things about Bill Clinton that he shouldn't have done? Did he make mistakes? Did he make bad choices? He did. And I'm not here to dispute
But you like that he balanced the budget.
But I like that he had us in the right track as far as financial, fiscally means goes. Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. So you can come on again.
Yeah.
So we've had Jackson Franklin on a couple weeks ago. He's the combat medic who is
Yep.
also running. I would like in a few months' time to have you both on, and I'll like send out questions ahead of time, and we can just give you each a couple minutes to respond, because primaries are so important.
Yes,
I like both of you, and I also like that you both are different and you're willing to explain your differences in policy, and then the voters, not the people in charge of the Democratic Party in our state, but the voters get to go to the primary and get to pick who they like is best. And if you are also running for Congress in District 5, message me in Project Next and let me know if you want to come on, because again, we support the people getting to make the choice that they want for people in power. We've got to get better people in power in our government across the state and the country. Everybody's states. We have to pay attention to it more and stop just focusing on the person at the top.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on. What's your website?
Oh, it is Samuel Cooper, 4 Congress.com.
Let's see if I can put that up there. All right. So Samuel Cooper 4 Congress.com is the website. All right. So you guys can check that out. I know you'll be getting social media accounts set up here in the next few weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
So you can check them out there, and just let people know about issues that we need to tackle so that we, the people, have more power. We can do this. So thanks for coming on. Thanks for
having me.
Thanks for announcing that you're running for Congress on Project Next. That's pretty exciting. We've never done that before. I'm honored that you chose our media company, because we just started in the middle of December, and we really are taking off and delivering some news.
Hey, you're a Hoosier, and you may not be in my district, but you're local.
Yeah,
maybe we're hours of drive, but hey.
Yeah, Project Next really wants to help Indiana, and we got to get the news, because news has really taken a hit over the last few years. So, we're trying this thing. We'll try it this way to get the news out to people, what's going on in Indiana, and just always the focus on, we want to make people's lives better, and having primaries and knowing the candidates and electing better people helps make people's lives better. So that is our mission at Project Next. So so thanks everybody for joining us. Please share. If you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do that. Just type in Project Next or Project Next Movement, and share it. Thank you for watching. Tell a friend that might want to know what's going on, and have a fantastic day. Yes, Sam.
Can I say one last thing?
You sure can.
So as we close this out, I want to say thank you to Sarah Blessing and Project Next for having me. And the other thing I'd like to say is this. I know the primary is just now starting, and there's going to be more folks that get in the race, I'm confident. But here's a pledge I want to make to, I wish you could vote for me, but we know how those rules work. But to anyone watching, here's what I'd like to say to you. As we get closer and closer to the primary, I want to pledge the truth and the honesty. I know what it's like to grow up as someone that came from a family living under the poverty line. That said, if you are willing to join me in this campaign, and as we get closer, if I can earn your vote, I promise you several things. One, I will always place the interest of every Hoosier, whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent. I will put your interest above my own, above a party, a corporation, and above the President of the United States of America.
I like that. Boy, you say you're not polished, but that was pretty good. I'm proud of you. Yeah. So let's do this. You all have a fantastic rest of your day. Tomorrow, I am interviewing my first big Republican candidate. He is a cop who's running for sheriff, Jason
Yeah.
Kerberg, in Floyd County, which is where the county that I grew up. And so I'm really thankful that this brave Republican, who as soon as I put it out that he was coming on the show, people tried to tell him to not be on the show, to not trust me. And he's like, nope, I'm trusting her. And I was like, that's how we do this.
I will be watching that.
Yeah, brave people that want to unite the community. So way to go, Jason. He's coming over to my house. We'll sit at the kitchen table and we will do this live show together. And he's similar to you. He's a little nervous. He's never done something like this. So I'm like, don't worry. I'm not trying to get you. We're trying to unite our communities. And I really want to talk about fear that the cops have, fear that the communities and neighbors have when they get pulled over or when a cop knocks on their door, and really try to lessen the fear and just have an open, honest discussion about that.
Yeah, I love that. That's great.
So I'm excited and a little nervous about that. And I know that that's big for Project Next. We've had a lot of Democrats on because, again, I run as a Democrat for State House. I know a lot of but I love Republicans. I have tons of Republicans I'm friends with. So I'm just so proud of Jason for being my first person to do this with. So yeah, so that's tomorrow at noon Eastern Standard Time. Yeah. And I'll see you all later, and let me know when you want to come back on again, and good luck with all of your campaigning and your website and all the gazillions of things you're about to do.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Next.
Thank you. Hope we're just going to keep growing. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.